Okay, game 5 here, and first thing to catch my eye is Sea Hag. When you see Sea Hag, you look for sources of trashing. There's none on this board, so you have to play with the curses in your deck, which means you probably want to open with Sea Hag, which is what I plan to do here, obviously. What I want to open with it is a card that can help me play my Sea Hag more often. If I win the curse split, I can get an advantage in developing my deck that way. So cards that do that, Chancellor can do it if that and the Sea Hag come in the right order. But better cards are Guide, and I think the best is Dungeon. I think the Dungeon is better than the Guide for this purpose because you can play your Dungeon a lot more than you can play your Guide. Sometimes you won't play your Guide as soon as you set it down because you have a good hand. So then it just sits on your mat and doesn't get used, whereas every time you have a dungeon, you're probably going to play that dungeon unless there's a shuffle you don't want to trigger for whatever reason. So we both open with Dungeon and Sea Hag. 3 here, I can go for a silver, but I opt for a second Dungeon at this point again to aid with the cycling, and it will become very useful later on in the game. I probably want 3 or 4 dungeons for this game, maybe more, but definitely going to be worth it the second dungeon. My opponent picks up a second Sea Hag. I wasn't too bothered about that. I'm not really looking for a second Sea Hag, even though there are no ways to trash curses in this deck. I have a plan on how to play this deck after the curses are finished, and I think it is okay for me to play with just the one Sea Hag. So I pick up a silver instead of a third dungeon here. Silver so I can get my economy going. I'm looking to buy cards like Bazaar and eventually Lost Arts. Why do I want Lost Arts? Well, this is the plan that I had. I'm going to buy Ranger and hopefully buy a bunch of Rangers and then stick the Lost Arts token on the Ranger pile and get a lot of draw that way. So that is my plan for playing this deck after the curses have been distributed. So my opponent gets a third dungeon, perfectly reasonable. I am going to get a Bazaar here. Plus actions is going to be good to hopefully alleviate collision like this, and the money is going to be important as well. So I get double hex there, and I'm unable to play this Ranger. I was entertaining some hope of, playing one Ranger, turning over the token, and maybe the next turn I can get a lot of draw and maybe get up to Lost Arts that way. As it is, I'm just able to play my Sea Hag and pick up another Ranger. I am going to buy a Hamlet here over the Crossroads. Again, it alleviates potential terminal collision and it will draw a card, unlike the Crossroads. Well, the Crossroads can draw one card right now, but that is as much as it can draw. So I think the Hamlet is really just a lot better for cycling purposes. 3 here is going to be a third dungeon for me. I really need this third dungeon. Even a fourth dungeon I probably need at this point, especially seeing that I'm 5 to 3 on the curses and probably going to be 6 to 3 and 6 to 4 as we find out here on the curses. So I really need the dungeons more so than my opponent, I believe. They go for a silver, and on 4 here I pick up a silver of my own, just trying to boost the economy here. Would have loved for my journey token to be face down at this point, but what can you do? My opponent picks up another silver, and here I am just able to turn my token face down. So I have at least one Ranger in the back, so maybe it can come together with a Bazaar. The dungeons will help to pair these cards together, and I can get up to my Lost Arts. Lost Arts is what I'm trying to reach here. So I play these 2 dungeons. It's not so good to see all the dungeons at once. You really want to have one come in from duration and then play another one. And then, keep the dungeons flowing. You don't want them to all clump. But sometimes it happens. What can you do? Not going to play this Sea Hag anymore because all it really does is cycle my opponent. And they're improving their deck, so I don't want to cycle them and make them see their newly bought things more quickly. And here comes the play that I was hoping for. Ranger draw, and I get 6 to put my token on the Rangers, and I have 2 Rangers at this point. So we're well set up for this game. The curses have been distributed, so now it's just a matter of building the deck. At this point, I don't need this Necropolis at all because I only have one terminal and that I'm not going to play, which is the Sea Hag. So the Necropolis is not really an entity at this point. 6 again here with just the solitary buy. I can go for gold, but I'm going to pick up another Ranger, trying to get a lot of draw into my deck at this point. Because now they're pretty good with that plus action. Rangers look a lot better with a plus action on them. Don't need to pick up Bazaars to build this engine, just straight Rangers. So getting rid of the Sea Hag here so that I don't play it. I might want to play it, but there's no real reason for me to play the Sea Hag. No reason for me to discard for buys or actions here with this Hamlet. And 4 is just enough money to pick up another Ranger. So here, ordinarily this would be bad, but I remember, hey, I have a plus action on the Rangers. I could play this. Woohoo! So we're looking good right now, looking in very good shape. We have a lot of draw in our deck. My opponent now goes for the Lost Arts token on the Rangers, but they don't have as much Rangers as I do. So I think I'm ahead here in development, even though I lost the curse split. So this is just something to remember, right? There's game to play after the curses have been distributed, and you need to think long term sometimes. And this was my long term plan with buying the Rangers. It didn't work out immediately. They collided with the Sea Hag and whatnot, but now it's starting to bear fruit. 6 here for me can be a Hamlet and a Ranger, but I don't need the Hamlet, and I would much rather add something like a gold to my deck for a bit of payload. Also, at this point, I don't want to run into a 3 pile because I have the advantage in development here, so I don't want to run out the Ranger pile and the Hamlet pile. I mean, it may have been okay to pick up one more Ranger and one more Hamlet, but I mean, I think the gold is good too here. It will significantly increase my buying power, and I'll be able to see it quite often, I think. But that is what was going through my mind at that point when I bought the gold. I don't want to run the piles and have my opponent force me into a kind of 3 pile ending where I cannot make use of my lead in development. However, 8 and 2 buys, I'm able to buy 2 Rangers. I, reassess the situation and realize, well, my opponent can't really do much. They don't have that many Rangers, and that means they don't have draw and plus buy to empty the piles. So get a Crossroads now. I anticipate some green cards coming into my deck very soon, and again, just avoiding the Hamlet pile if I don't need to go there. So here we see the first big turn with the Rangers coming out here. Lots and lots of Rangers coming out to the party here, and I'm able to draw nearly through my entire deck at this point, obviously assisted by the dungeons, and I can, selectively play these dungeons, discard one of them because I don't want them to clump, and I end up at 15. So the last Ranger is going to go away, as well as a province to put me in the lead, and another dungeon. The 4th dungeon is going to serve me well in finding my Rangers for me. So now looks to be a very, very strong position for me here, and I'm able to find 2 Rangers and kick off again this turn. This is as far as I go though, and 5, well, just going to stretch the points advantage here. I have the Crossroads in the deck, so adding green cards isn't so bad. It isn't going to affect my draw that much, and I can just buy more Crossroads if I need to draw more cards. There's no reason to try to be clever and go for a 3 pile with Hamlet and Dungeon. I can just buy points. And when it is easier for me to 3 pile, then I can do it. So my opponent gets up to a province here, coming up with a big Ranger turn of their own, but is just a bit behind here, as I'm able to see a pair of Rangers again and kick off in a big way one more time. So this was my plan from the beginning of the game, and I'm happy to see it work. Very, very happy to see it work. Here, this Ranger is going to turn my journey token face down, and 13. I'm 1 short of finishing the game here, I think. So I just buy province and duchy and hope, well, maybe I could finish it next turn. But yeah, I think I have what 7 or 8 of the Rangers, so really it's just one-way traffic at this point in the game. So I believe at the end of this turn my opponent is going to resign because I kick off again here. You see I have 3 Rangers already. And that's the end of game 5. So yeah, thinking long term, there's game to play after the curses. And that's all I have to say for this. Thank you for watching and see you in the last game.